The fallout from the Lunawo revelation was supposed to end one love story, but instead it detonated the carefully balanced world of Forrester creations. Electra Forrester, once the soft-spoken muse in the background of couture launches, a young woman praised for her poise, charm, and quiet beauty, had her world torn in half the moment she learned the truth about Will Spencer. What began as heartbreak became rage. What began as betrayal became strategy. And what began as a broken relationship became the birth of a power player. Electra cut Will off without ceremony. There were no long goodbyes, no second chances. One moment they were a couple everyone thought would last. The next she was walking away in silence, her eyes cold, her voice flat, her exit final. Will, still reeling from his trauma with Lune and from his mother Katie's mishandling of it, begged for a chance to explain. He wanted to tell her that he hadn't cheated, that he hadn't betrayed her willingly, that he was a victim as much as she was collateral. But Electra wasn't in a place to listen. To her, silence had already spoken louder than excuses. She had been kept in the dark, and that wound was unforgivable. The heartbreak might have ended there, another tragic young love story in a family built on tragedies, but Electra refused to remain the victim. Instead, she pivoted. With the fire of humiliation still burning in her chest, she aligned herself with new company. Rumors swirled quickly. One week she was photographed stepping out of Il Fornaio with a prominent fashion investor from Milan. The next she was spotted at the Beverly Hills Hotel with none other than R.J. Forrester. The tabloids seized on it, Electra's rebound tour. Every headline screamed scandal. Every photo captured her slipping into cars at midnight. Every social media whisper painted her not as the wounded lover but the woman in control. The transformation was stunning. The girl who once wore soft silks and pastel tones now strutted into events in metallics, leather, plunging cuts, and bold red lips. Photographers trailed her everywhere. Paparazzi turned her heartbreak into a show. Electra didn't run from it, she fed it. She gave sly smiles to cameras, allowed herself to be seen leaving parties at sunrise, and posted cryptic captions that drove speculation into overdrive. She was no longer Wilt's sweetheart. She was Electra, the storm. Then came the whispers of a pregnancy. The rumor began with one blurred paparazzi shot. Electra leaving a medical building in Santa Monica, oversized sunglasses on, clutching paperwork to her chest. Within hours, the internet exploded. Electra Forrester pregnant. Whose baby is it, Will's or RJ's? The heiress and the heir scandal at Forrester. Blogs and gossip channels ran with it. Some claimed sources inside Forrester Creations confirmed it. Others swore it was all a publicity stunt. And when Electra didn't deny it, the story grew teeth. Fake pregnancy, whispered the Logan cousins at a family brunch. She's using it to climb. But whether it was real or fabricated, it worked. The board at Forrester Creations, desperate to control the story before it spun into a PR disaster, convened. Eric wanted restraint. Ridge was furious at the thought of their family's name being leveraged in such a circus. Brooke raised concerns about the Logan women being dragged into the mess. But when the debate reached a fever pitch, Electra herself walked into the boardroom, uninvited, unshaken, and utterly in control. She laid her cards on the table. If you want me quiet, if you want me stable, if you want me on your side instead of the tabloids, then I want a global ambassadorship. Forrester's face, Forrester's voice, Forrester's star. You need me. And I'll sign the contract today. The room erupted. Thomas slammed his chair back. Steffi sneered. Ridge demanded she leave. But Eric steadied her calmly. He saw not a child of scandal but a woman who understood leverage. Brooke, surprisingly, didn't shut her down. Katie, already disgraced for her role in silencing Will, had no voice left to protest. Electra got what she wanted. The deal was signed. She became the official global ambassador of Forrester Creations, the face of campaigns, the centerpiece of fashion weeks, the woman in every billboard from Paris to Tokyo. Her pregnancy whispers real or false fueled her notoriety, her every appearance dissected, her every word amplified. The same heartbreak that had once shattered her had now catapulted her into power. And Will? He watched from the sidelines, broken twice over. His confession came too late. He stood outside her Malibu home one night, begged her to listen, begged her to understand that what happened with Luna wasn't his fault, that he had been taken advantage of, that he had loved her truly, and that every misstep afterward had been born from pain. But Electra, standing in the doorway in a sequin gown with flashbulbs exploding at the gate, didn't waver. "You should have told me then," she said flatly. "You don't get to tell me now." She closed the door. The press hailed her as the Ice Queen of Forrester, a woman who had turned scandal into empire. She had the title, the money, the fame, the influence. She had everything she once thought she wanted. But in private, the cost showed. The parties ended in silence. The champagne turned bitter. The applause of cameras faded into ringing in her ears. Electra had traded her heart for headlines. She had built a throne from ashes. She had won the power game. But she had lost herself. And as the season ended on a shot of her standing alone in a penthouse overlooking Los Angeles, clutching a contract in one hand and her phone in the other, her reflection in the glass didn't smile back. Electra had risen. Electra had conquered. But Electra's heart was stone. Electra Forrester thought she had everything. The ink was barely dry on her global ambassador contract when her face began appearing on digital billboards from Rodeo Drive to Times Square. She had front row seats at Milan Fashion Week, photographers chasing her through Parisian streets, and glossy magazine covers declaring her the new face of Forrester. Her name eclipsed the scandal. Her image buried whispers about fake pregnancies under a flood of curated glamour. She had won. But what Electra didn't realize, at least not yet, was that her victory had placed her in the center of a storm far larger than Will, Luna, or her own heartbreak. The board at Forrester Creations simmered. Steffi, newly returned and balancing motherhood with her executive duties, didn't trust her cousin's rise. She argued that Electra's ascent had been bought with manipulation, not merit, and she wasn't wrong. Ridge fumed privately, convinced Eric had been too soft. Thomas, already wary of how scandal tarnished design integrity, refused to sketch a single gown for her campaign shoots. But Eric, the patriarch, insisted. "Electra sells," he said simply. "Right now, she's not a liability. She's an asset." Brooke, with her usual keen sense of optics, didn't disagree. "The public loves a survivor," she remarked. "Electra isn't just surviving, she's thriving. And thrive she did." Paparazzi caught her on yachts with investors, dining with Hollywood elites, and strutting through airports in look style down to the last button. Yet every headline crowned her with ice. The Ice Queen, the heartless heiress, Electra, beauty without mercy. At first, she relished it. But alone in hotel suites, staring at glowing city skylines, the silence grew louder. Elise's pregnancy whispers she had never denied clung to her like smoke. Then came Will. Despite everything, he hadn't stopped loving her. He hadn't stopped believing that one day she would understand. He tried again, this time in public. At a Forrester charity gala, cameras rolling, he took the microphone during a lull in speeches. His voice cracked as he confessed it about love lost, but about truth hidden. He told the story of that night with Luna, told the room how he had been a victim, not a betrayer, and admitted that shame and fear had kept him silent for too long. "Electra," he said, turning toward her across the glittering ballroom, "you were the one person I should have trusted. I didn't, and I lost you. But I will never stop being sorry." The room fell silent. Viewers at home watched live streams replay the moment. Social media exploded with sympathy for Will, hashtags declaring "Believe Will," "Menarevik Timstu," and "Justice for Will." Electra's reaction was icy. She didn't cry. She didn't run. She simply rose from her chair, smoothed her gown, and walked past him without a word. Cameras followed her every step. That clip trended for days. Behind closed doors, however, Electra saw the opportunity. Sympathy for Will threatened to shift the narrative away from her, away from the empire she had built. So she leaned in harder. She scheduled an emergency press conference not to respond to Will's confession, but to double down on her position at Forrester. Standing beneath a glowing Forrester logo, she announced her expanded role not just as ambassador, but as the face of an entire women's empowerment campaign. Every woman deserves to own her story, she declared to flashing bulbs. And I am here to tell mine. What she didn't reveal was the deal she had struck in the shadows. Her silence about the fake pregnancy rumors and her willingness to keep selling the myth had been leveraged into a financial contract that tied her name to Forrester for 5 years. The payout was enormous, the control unprecedented, but the cost was her credibility. And slowly, cracks began to show. Paparazzi photos of Electra stumbling out of a private party with an unidentifiable man surfaced. Bloggers speculated endlessly. Was he her secret lover, her financier, or both? The whispers of a real pregnancy re-emerged, this time harsher, darker. Was she hiding a child to secure her power? When Will, heartbroken yet again, refused to comment to the press, the narrative skewed even further. Inside Forrester, the family muttered in corners. Steffi accused Electra of selling not just herself, but the company's name. Thomas went further and pulled one of his designs from her campaign, declaring he wouldn't let his art be worn like armor in someone else's war. Rich demanded Eric end her contract, but Eric refused. Donna, caught between her loyalty to Eric and her discomfort with Electra, stayed silent. Brooke, however, shocked everyone by stepping in to defend Electra publicly. She's not the villain, Brooke said in an interview. She's surviving in the only way she knows how. And survival isn't a crime. But behind that defense, Electra was unraveling. Her nights were long, her days longer. The coldness that once felt like armor now weighed like chains. Will's words replayed in her mind. You were the one person I should have trusted. She had power, but her heart was dust. She had influence, but no intimacy. She had the spotlight, but no warmth in it. The climax came in a scene that riveted viewers. Electra alone in the Forrester showroom, surrounded by her own posters, her own face towering over her in glossy perfection. She whispered to herself, they love me, but they don't know me. They see me, but they don't see me. Then she collapsed into a chair, clutching her phone, her fingers hovering over Will's number. She didn't call. Instead, she summoned her lawyer. She ordered the final draft of her global expansion contract signed, locking herself into the power she had fought so hard for. She sealed her fate. Electra had everything she thought she wanted: wealth, contracts, influence, power. But as she looked at her reflection in the showroom glass, the truth was written in her eyes. She was alone. Her heart, once tender and open, was now closed, scarred, unyielding. She had won the empire, but she had lost herself forever.